I don't know if I'm going to say his name right, but this man was a philosopher and a writer in the 12th century, I want to say. And he wrote, "I believe with perfect faith in the coming of the Messiah, and though he tarry, yet will I believe." So even though you can't see it right in front of you, hope is about believing. Hope is about believing that if I stretch my consciousness, if I open myself up, if I move beyond my circumstances right here, then I can experience God. So what are you hoping for today? When we got together to talk about doing an intergenerational service, we talked about our own hopes. Some of us were hoping for enough money for Christmas presents. Some of us were hoping for healing for people we love. Some of us were hoping for peace on earth. We were all over the place, but we had hope. I wrote a few. Hope for wisdom in raising our children. Huh? Hope for creativity that transcends predictability. Hope for a compassionate response to poverty and despair. Hope for healing of hostilities among races. Hope for the end of war. Hope for future generations to care about something, to care deeply. I bet you, some of you read this book. I read it several years ago. It's called The Secret Life of Bees. Did anybody ever read that book? Wow, what just a tremendous book. And in that book, for those of you who didn't read it, it's a novel. It's written by Sue Monk Kidd. And it's a story about a little girl and her housekeeper and their friends, and they're living in tough times of abuse and despair, and they just can't figure out a way out, so they run away, and they wind up living with these three sisters who are beekeepers. And it's a time in the South, you know, when people didn't share across racial lines. They didn't share water fountains or hotel rooms or restaurants. But this little girl was white and her housekeeper was black, and they loved each other a lot. And they found themselves in this home with these three sisters who were beekeepers. One of them, May, had a very tender heart. And May really didn't have very many filters to the pain of the world. So the world being a tough place for her, she went out in the backyard and she created, rock by rock, this wall. And whenever life got disturbing and she felt hopeless, she wrote it on her piece of paper and folded it up and stuck it in the crevices between the rocks in the backyard. Like the couple in Japan, there was action to be taken when we hope. And May's action was to go to that wall in her grief and in her prayer. I want to talk about grieving for a moment. Because you know what? Sometimes in the spiritual world we think, well, I know the truth, so let's knock it off. You know, let's get on with it. You know, kind of speedy psychotherapy. It takes like 1 minute to get over it. I might have told you this story, and if I have, bear with me, but it is one of those stories, it's a true story that happened to me, I don't know, before I went to Unity Village. I was working for hospice up in Everett, and I was an ambassador for the United Way, and I was sent to a Boeing group, work group, to talk about hospice. And we had created this 6-minute video, so I pulled out my 6-minute video and my literature, and we're talking. And a woman walked out of the room. She looked a little distressed. So I finished the video and I finished my talk, and I said, does anybody know where she might have gone? Oh, go check the women's locker room. So I went in there, and sure enough, she was sitting there and she was crying. And she looked up and she said, I'm so sorry, I'm so sorry. I said, well, what's wrong? And I sat down next to her. She said, well, I'm sorry, my dad's died, and I just, don't seem to be getting over it. And I'm so sorry that I was disruptive. And I said, I'm sorry about your dad, And I put my arm around her and I said, how long ago did your dad die? Last week. And it was this speedy, quick thing that we have about, do not dwell on the pain. Well, hello, if you got pain, you can't pretend you don't have it. That's what May's wall was about. And all of us know grief someplace in our lives. And hopefully all of us know a place where we can take it. That wall that May had, sometimes we're the wall. Sometimes we're the rock Sometimes we're the person that somebody comes to and says, I am mad, or I am sad, or I don't know what to do, or I am lost, or I am in despair. And our job is to be the wall. You know, you're the rock, you're the wall, and you say, here, come and throw your despair, come and throw your grief here. I can handle it. I can hold on to it for you. And sometimes our job is to put prayers in the crevices on the wall. May's wall is like a wall that has stood since before Jesus walked the earth in Jerusalem. I don't know if you've ever been there or if you've ever seen a picture of it, but it's called the Wailing Wall. It's sometimes called the Western Wall. And it's believed to be the last wall standing of the temple that was erected in, are you ready, 19 years before Jesus walked the earth in Jerusalem. It was erected by Herod the Great. And the wall is sacred ground for people from all over the world, especially Jews, and truly a place, a wall of hope. People visit that wall to wail, to howl, to cry, and to place little pieces of paper, little scrolls inside the wall with their prayers and their hope. And I'm told that some who visit the wall sit before it in meditation, and some stand before it in stillness. Hope requires courage to say how it is, courage to wail, courage to tell the truth. Hope requires patience to let it all unfold in its own time, because without patience, you know what happens? We become cynical, and we just dry up. That juicy heart that we have, it just dries up. We just say, oh, well. I mean, we've all been there, but we don't want to live in cynicism. We want to live in juicy life, don't we? I know you do. Say I do. I know you do. I know you do. And hope requires action, that we do our part, whatever that is. It might just be to take it to the wall. It might just be to plant a garden, to take your tools where there doesn't seem to be any life left. Without hope, our faith collapses. The individual quits and goes home, and the world is abandoned. An aside, if you like really strange movies, I saw a very strange movie that I just have to tell you, it is an aside. The Coen brothers' new film, A Serious Man. It's kind of like the story of Job. This despair after there's so much despair that you laugh. It's just like, surely, you know, this could never end. There's rabbis in the story, right, who tell rabbi stories about teeth with engraving on the inside. I mean, it's just fantastic, bizarre Coen brothers movie. So I just wanted to mention that.